make a couple comments, I think, first, and then we'll go. Hello, everybody. And we just returned from a mission where we were in Washington, D.C., and then spent a couple of days in Guadalajara as well as Mexico City, where we have a number of industry contacts and export contacts, I would say, as well. In Saskatchewan, we're very aware of how we create our wealth, and we create wealth by producing food, fuel, and fertilizer, and then exporting those products to over 160 countries around the world. In 2007, that export value was $17 billion in this province. In 2018, that export value had climbed to $31 billion. And last year, it was at $49 billion, in fact, the last 2 years. Over half of the value of those products do head to one trading partner. That's the United States of America, and that's regardless of who is president. So as we find ourselves in a very difficult time, not just as Canadians, but I would say other countries as well, difficult times dealing with an individual that may not be entirely accurate with the perceived facts that they might bring to the table. We have to also face the reality that this gentleman is the President of the United States, and we have to deal with him as he is the President of the largest trading partner that we have, and I would say the longest ally that we have as Canadians. So the reality of the situation beyond the perceived facts that are entering into the conversation are a few things. First, I would just say Canada is never going to be the 51st state. It just is not going to happen. Second, I would say that Canada and Saskatchewan will remain the largest trading partner of the United States, long beyond and past this president's term. And so we need to find a path to, for us as and Saskatchewan industries, and I would say collectively Canadian industries, to ensure that that will and can remain the case in the best interests of Saskatchewan industries and Saskatchewan families. The current policy that many have of exploring how hard they can stick it to our largest trading partner or stick it to President Trump, whether that be conversations around perceived counter tariffs or what that might be, as we need to look beyond that as a nation, and we certainly need to look beyond that as a province. That is not good enough for the families that live in this province, and it's not simply good enough for the long-term efforts and initiatives that we as a nation of Canada need to embark on. And so Saskatchewan will continue to engage on the path forward, the long-term path forward, on ensuring that we can remain not only a strong trading partner with the United States, but are diversifying and expanding our trade to countries like Mexico, to countries like India, to countries like all of those in the European Union, and to countries abroad. We very much find ourselves in North America in a challenging space today. But we will find our way through that, and we will find our way back to Saskatchewan being a significant and remains a significant contributor to economic security in the continent of North America, providing energy security for all of those that live in North America and beyond, providing food security for all those that live in North America and beyond. So thank you. It would be rare in the extent that it happens every 4 years in an election year. And if you look back, it's actually the norm.
And then what do you say then to NDP leader Carla Beck describing your government doing this as the bare minimum in making that decision to come back?
She may not be aware what the norm is, and I would ask why. We've been engaging with our partners. We've met with, for example, Secretary Burgum. He's the Secretary of the Interior. Secretary Wright, he's the Secretary of Energy in the Trump administration. Those are the people that we need to be meeting with on behalf of Saskatchewan industry, Saskatchewan jobs, and Saskatchewan families. We'll have much time to talk to the Leader of the Opposition and the various critics that they have. I would suggest that they are not influential in the Trump administration, and we need to take the time that we have now to engage with those that are.
You said President Donald Trump should be taken seriously but not literally. How do you square that interpretation with Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair posting that they never agreed that Canada would not be the 51st state, and said the best way to understand President Trump's position is to take what he says at face value?
Yeah, I stand by the comments. You have to take him, you have to take the president seriously. He says a number of things. We're seeing some of the comments that are being said today with respect to the very tragic invasion of Ukraine by Putin. I don't think I take those comments literally as well, but I take them very seriously. So I stand by the comments. We have to take the president seriously when he is speaking of initiatives that he's looking at. You don't always take him literally. It's unfortunate that we find ourselves in a situation like this, but we do, and we need to take the entirety of the situation very seriously. Saskatchewan and Canada are very much a partner in creating that economic security in North America, that continental economic security. We in Saskatchewan participate in that by providing energy and food security to all of those in North America and beyond, to 160 countries around the world. And so, we're focused on a few things. One is the long-term ability for us to remain as a strong trading partner to all of those nations that make up our continent of North America. That includes Mexico, it includes the United States of America, but we're also focused on diversifying and expanding that trade beyond. As I said, in 2007, we were about $17 billion was our value. That has climbed to $49 billion today. And when you see the mines and the forestry investments and the value-added agriculture investments that are being made in this province, it's fair to say that over the next 2 to 5 years, that $49 billion is going to climb many billion more. So Saskatchewan is in a very strong position today from an economic perspective to ensure that not only are we economically secure in our province and are providing jobs for Saskatchewan families, but are partaking in a more broad economic security conversation across our nation and across our continent, and around the world for that matter.
When it comes to the tariffs on steel and aluminum, is Saskatchewan affected by that? If yes, so how was it affecting?
Yes, I would say first and foremost, any steel wholesaler or retailer is going to feel some of that if they're sourcing product from other countries. But second, I would point no further to we have a steel manufacturer just north of Regina in Everest with many hundreds of people employed directly, and I would say many hundreds and a few thousand more indirectly. And to just speak to the how operationally problematic this can be. That particular steel operator takes most of the cars, not just from Canada, but throughout the Midwestern U.S., brings them in and recycles them. They cross the border once. Then sends that slate steel, which is the product, down to a mill in Portland, Oregon. That crosses the border twice. And in Portland, Oregon, they take that slab steel, and make it into a product called plate steel. That plate steel crosses the border again as it comes north to either Camrose or back to Regina, where they will make pipe out of it. That's 3 times it's crossed the border now. Since we haven't been very successful in building pipelines in Canada, and I would suggest that needs to change, that pipe quite often is going south to build a pipeline in North Dakota or Oklahoma or somewhere in that area. So it crosses the border yet a 4th time. Just a rudimentary product like steel is crossing the border 4 to 5 times in its manufacture until it finds its place in the ground for the next number of decades. Can you imagine how many times an auto manufacturer is crossing the border with the parts, or a tractor manufacturer, or our agricultural products as well? And so, herein lies the challenge when it comes to tariffs on any product. But to answer your question, yes, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I would say in particularly Americans, will be very much impacted by tariffs on any product, even that of steel and aluminum.
What did the Americans say to you when you visited the U.S.? And you said you don't generally take President Trump literally. Why? Explain that.
I didn't meet with President Trump, but we did meet with a number of folks that I would say would be certainly would be part of what you would consider his cabinet. We met with Secretary Burgum, who was a former governor of North Dakota, Secretary Chris Wright, who is the Secretary of Energy. We'll be returning in the not too distant future in the hopes of meeting with a number of others as well. We met with a number of Senate folks as well, Lindsey Graham, Senator from Pennsylvania as well, a swing state, a number of congressmen as well in our neighboring states and across. I think 13 or 15 in total. We'll provide the list at some point here. Very much, I think, received quite well received quite well. And I think very much have an understanding of the importance in how we create value in North America across the 49th parallel, using maybe the example of how many times steel crosses the border that I just provided. So, very much an understanding of that. However, there are some concerns. First with the border and fentanyl, and I think we share those concerns, and that's why you've seen a provincial investment and credit to the federal government, significant federal investment as well. And we need to continue to do more to eradicate fentanyl from our communities, and I think that's a word that we should really start to use when it comes to this poison that is killing people that live in our province, our nation, our province, our communities, and all too often our friends and family members. As fentanyl has no place in Saskatchewan, and we are going to be looking at every effort to eradicate it from the province and do what we can to do the same across Canada. I think in fairness, there are some concerns that have been raised with respect to maybe not directly USMCA, but some things that the administration in the US might want to talk about in the 6-year, I believe, time when we have a USMCA review. Dairy had come up. Some of the supply management industry had come up. The digital service tax had came up as well. And so there are some points I think that you will see reviewed in that standard review that we have at the 6-year mark. It's very unfortunate that we are having the intensity of this tariff discussion in the lead up to that. And I would just say, as unfortunate as that is, this is our largest trading partner. And we have no choice but to deal with them.
Since your party has been in government, it appears to me that only one time has the legislature begun sitting and a budget being delivered, and that was in 2021. So again, why are you doing it this time around? 2021 was appeared to be pandemic related, so that's the only time it was done. So why?
2021. No, I'll have to check. I've been informed that it's happened a number of times where the spring setting has been altered and opened on budget day. I'll have to check that.
Speaking about fentanyl, is there increased activity at the Saskatchewan-US border, especially just to stop it from entering our communities here?
Yeah, well, there's 3 ways. There's 3 points of entry that I think we need to pay attention to. One is the 49th parallel, a point of entry and exit, but there's also our port facilities, which need to be, I would say, more closely monitored as well when it comes to precursor drugs and things that can be used to make fentanyl. As well as our airports. There are 3 really ports of entry that need to be closely examined, and I think we have to have an ongoing conversation associated with our federal government, because they are federal ports of entry, on how we are guarding ourselves from the entry of these drugs. But there's more that we can do locally at the provincial level as well, whether it be fentanyl or crystal meth, things of those nature, and eradicating those from our communities. They are most certainly the drivers of crime. They are in many ways associated in the drivers of some of the homelessness and social challenges that we're seeing in our communities. And I think we can do better as a provincial government, and it's our intent to do so.
Do you think when it comes to Trump, my interpretation is he's more of a talker than a listener? So do you think talking to these leaders in the U.S. will make any difference to his decisions?
Yes, I do. I never met the president, but the folks that I have met, and in some cases have had conversations in a relationship with for a number of years, I do feel they have influence over the future of their country. In the same way that leaders in this province or in this nation, regardless of party, I think listen to the folks that are in their caucus, who I hope are listening to the folks that live in their communities and their constituencies as well. And so, I said we would embark on an effort like we did 5 years ago on engaging with decision makers, engaging with those that are involved in industry, and encouraging them to engage with decision makers as well. As we find our way through this conversation, we'll have to make decisions alongside our federal government, some of those decisions at certain points in time. Some will be reactionary decisions, some may be proactive decisions, but they will have to be made. And I think we should be very careful about hypothetically surmising what we might do in this situation or what we might do in that situation. Again, despite the stretching of certain facts that may be coming to light from time to time, the fact does remain is we have to deal with this administration. They've been duly elected. The fact remains that the United States of America is our largest trading partner and will be, despite or regardless of who the president is now and into the future. And we need to keep that in mind in everything that we do, is to be respectful of the relationship that we traditionally have had, be respectful of the relationship that we aspire to have, despite some of the challenges that we're currently having.
How did it go in Mexico?
It was good. We had a number of meetings with industry partners, importing organizations, whether it be importing of feeds, importing of canola for oil, or actually importing of oils as well. Met with the governor of, and I'm going to get this as close as I can, Escaliantes, as well as some folks in the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Economy that will be part of the effort that they're making as we find our way to the 6-year mark of the USMCA review. And so an interesting and different approach, I think, from the Mexican perspective to the president and to that review of the USMCA agreement, and looking for, solutions, and looking from Mexico's perspective to ensure that they are a long-term trading partner with the U.S. And the products that they trade and their relationship is slightly different than the relationship that Canada has with the U.S. And I think that's really what makes the USMCA agreement a strong agreement in whatever form it is going to look like moving forward. It does provide us very much the opportunity to take products that may be produced in one country, move them to another country, add value, create jobs for those products, and in doing so, provide that continental economic security through providing energy, through providing food and manufactured goods that we have. And so, a challenging conversation we find ourselves in right now. It's necessary that we partake in it, and we're going to continue to do so until we find our way to better ground.
What do the next steps look like, either from, fellow premier's perspective, or just from the trip down to Washington or the trip to Mexico? What would be immediate next steps for you?
Well, I think next steps are continued engagement. I think you'll see other premiers that will actually be in Washington this week. The National Governors Association meeting will be there this week. I had thought about attending that as well, but just returning now. We have some things to do here. But we will be returning sooner rather than later to engage, as I said, with some additional members of President Trump's appointees, the secretaries that he's appointed, but as well to engage with additional senators and congressmen. And, those are the other two, houses of decision-making capability in the U.S. are the Senate and the House. And so I'll be returning sooner rather than later, before we find our way into spring session, to continue to engage on behalf of the strengths that we have in our trade relationship, and how together we do provide that economic continental security. It is the greatest relationship in the world when you look at what we provide and how we provide it in North America. At times, we're going to have conversations about moving, the pieces around slightly. But at the end of that conversation, we need to get back to doing what we do, and that's providing economic security for everyone that lives in North America.
Premier, we're still seeing emergency department restrictions and closures and such in rural Saskatchewan, also here at City Hospital in Saskatoon, until the 23rd. So can you tell us how you feel your recruitment efforts are going, especially staffing urgent care centers like the one in Regina and one coming up in Saskatoon? How do you feel that's going, considering those are?
Yeah, we're building out, and we have similar challenges many other provinces, is building out our human resources, the people, the qualified people that offer healthcare services, whether you live in rural Saskatchewan, whether you live in urban Saskatchewan, whatever those might be. And this is a Canadian challenge. It's not exclusive to Saskatchewan. However, it is a challenge for us as well. That's why we've invested, I think to date, over $300 million in our health human resource plan, and that's expanding training opportunities, incentives to attract people into those hard to recruit areas. And I think we need to not only look at continuing to do what we're doing in the way of investment, but we need to have some very frank conversations about doing things differently, and offering care in maybe different ways. And I think some of that conversation has already occurred, but we we likely need to continue with it. And I would use the example of the introduction and operation of the urgent care center in Regina. And the commitment to expand that not only to another location in Regina, but 2 locations in Saskatoon, as well as Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, North Battleford. The urgent care centers certainly are, I wouldn't say removing, but providing families and individuals another option outside of the emergency room when they have an ailment that may be more urgent than waiting for their family physician, but not necessarily as emergent where they have to be in a hospital waiting room. We need to get those up and running as quickly as possible in Saskatoon here. With respect to the disruptions in service, and that's what they are, and it is a commitment by this government to ensure that there are fewer disruptions going into the future. That's why we have made that investment. I am going to be asking in the next number of days our health minister and the Saskatchewan Health Authority as to why. What do we need to change? Operationally, are there things that we can change that will help us with some of these disruptions? And ultimately, the goal, as you saw in our speech from the throne, is to provide access to Saskatchewan people and families, access to a medical health care professional, and access to surgeries when they need it. And with the disruptions, there's some hindering that access, and we need to do better. And the Saskatchewan Health Authority, I think with the investment that they have received and the increases in investment that they've received, the expectation of myself and this government and Saskatchewan people is that they deliver and offer the health care that we expect.
Other than the urgent care centers, what do you mean by delivering things differently?
I use that as an example. I think we need to continue to have the conversation on are there things that we can do differently operationally in our healthcare system that are going to result in not only a more efficient delivery, but going to result in a higher degree of access for Saskatchewan people. And I would say that the urgent care center operating in Regina is providing that. We need to replicate it and replicate it quickly, which is difficult in an environment when we're short of professional healthcare staff across the country. It is difficult. But we are making the investment. We expect the operational arm, the Saskatchewan Health Authority, the organization that delivers healthcare in this province, to deliver when that investment is made.
You said that the upcoming budget will withstand the potential tariffs and protect jobs. What can Saskatchewan residents expect from this upcoming budget?
Well, again, it's there are potential tariffs. We've had no tariffs enacted as of yet, and it would still be our hope that that isn't the case. That being said, we do need to be ready, not only from a provincial perspective, but be part of a national conversation as well as to what the impact of potential tariffs might be, and how we're going to best not only support businesses, but find a path through them. As I said, the goal number 1 is to not have tariffs. Goal number 2 is, if we do happen to have tariffs, is to have them for the shortest period of time. If you remember last time, we had steel and aluminum tariffs that were imposed. There was some counter tariffs that were imposed, some very precise and selective counter tariffs. But there was also an effort made to curb the import of Chinese steel into Canada, into that USMCA free zone, or what that at that point was the NAFTA agreement, that NAFTA free zone. And I think that's something we really need to pay attention to as well, is are we doing everything to curb goods that are coming in from another area into that NAFTA or USMCA free zone? That is a sensitive, I think, point of discussion that I heard about this past week. And so there's things that we can do alongside other premiers in the federal government as well to address some of the concerns of our largest trading partner and maybe reduce the impact, the time, or even the imposition of tariffs. And so that's goal number 1. I'm not going to discuss, what we would do, should tariffs come on in this scenario or this scenario. If they come on, then we'll take the action that is necessary. I would say, Saskatchewan is in a strong position. When you look at what we produce and where we provide it, we produce food, fuel, and fertilizer, very basic necessities of life. Tariffs on any of those products are going to push up the price of fuel for American families at the gas station, and very quickly will push up the price for groceries when they visit the grocery store. So we're in a very, I think, impactful position here in the province. We're also the least reliant, proportionally, of any province on exports to the U.S. About 55% of our products do go to the U.S. That's about the lowest, or maybe tied for the lowest, of any province across Canada. That being said, they are our largest trading partner, and we're most certainly, part of the discussion in finding a path to a long-term agreement here.
Regardless of whether these tariffs come or not, we're already seeing that even just the threat of them is disrupting a lot of business, especially here right in Saskatoon. What do you say to those companies that are already on the move to just move away from the U.S. in general?
It is disrupting the investment environment in Canada. The very threat of tariffs is disrupting the investment environment. And I don't know that it's moving it to the U.S. at this point as much as it's pausing the decisions that are being made. And so, the impact in Saskatchewan is we're in the investment attraction game. We've literally seen tens of billions of dollars in the mining sector, in the ag value-added sector that's been attracted here, and we're not finished yet. I would say we're just setting pace with respect to attracting that investment and creating those jobs for Saskatchewan families that live here today and those that choose to live here tomorrow. So, anything that impacts investment attraction, like talk of tariffs with our largest trading partner, it is going to have an impact, not only in this province, but across Canada. And I would say it speaks to the need and the importance of myself and our government being in that market, talking to decision and policymakers, myself and members of our government talking to industries that have contacts and business dealings on both sides of that border. It also speaks to the importance of us expanding our trade in other markets. And as I said, we have ministers in other markets around the world, ensuring that we are not only protecting the market access that we have there today, but opening up new horizons for us to expand and sell more product into that market, whether it be further diversifying today's trade or whether it be selling some of those products that we know are coming in the next couple of years. And I would add again, this advocacy and this focus on market diversification and being engaged from that province to a nation, from that province to nation perspective, wherever we might be, has been highly criticized by the opposition in this province. Highly, highly criticized. And for them in any way to come now and say that, no, we agree, you need to be putting, billboards up on subways in Chicago or whatever their suggestion may or might have been, is really hypocritical.
There's this, the Buy Canadian campaign started in social media.
Right.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on provincially, locally, and at the same time, how do you, what do you think, how do you think it will last?
Well, I've been entertaining on whether I should buy a new Canadian-built snowmobile and stay here the entirety of the winter. Unfortunately, I do have to go to other markets for work-related missions. But I would say, we should always be looking to buy local and buy Canadian. And maybe this is a very good look in the mirror opportunity for us to look in the mirror, a reminder that we should be supporting our friends and neighbors that are producing things in our community, or our province, or our nation, and always looking close to home for whatever it is we purchase. That's how our communities have been built, is by people coming out and supporting one another and volunteering and building the great things that you see, whether it be in a rural community or right here in Saskatoon. And so this is I think a very stark reminder for us to always be looking to support those that are local to our community, local to our province and our nation. Thank you. Sorry.
What's the argument against an emergency or calling an emergency session?
There is no argument for or against. We've just decided that the session is going to be on March the 19th. That'll be our budget day when we find our way in there. What that does do is provide us operationally some time to be in these other markets, to be expanding our trade, whether that be in markets like India, Europe, the United Arab Emirates has been an important trading partner for us and I would say an access point to many other markets around the world. And we need to be in those markets, despite what the opposition might think, that you can, form those contacts and those relationships from a Zoom meeting in your basement. That just simply isn't the case. You need to be in those markets. We have ministers in them now. I myself, as you know, was on a mission not only to Mexico but to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to return to Washington, D.C. in the very near future to ensure that we are engaging with folks that are in the room when those decisions are being made. Those decisions aren't being made in our provincial legislature. There'll be a time to debate not only this, but the budget that we'll be putting forward. And it's a budget, I would say, that very much is going to deliver on the what we have heard from Saskatchewan people when it comes to our province remaining the most affordable place in Canada to live, when it comes to what we have heard from Saskatchewan people and having access to, whether it be to a medical health care provider or whether it be to a surgery. K-3 outcomes in our education system. Our students, who are our children, very much have to have every opportunity to be at a grade 3 level when they find their way to grade 3, and you're going to see investments that are going to increase the opportunities for that to happen and provide the supports for our educators so that may happen. Community safety, increasingly being discussed not only in Saskatchewan but across Canada. And we very much have a parallel approach when it comes to, how are we going to make our communities safer than they are today? And one is to provide recovery opportunities. Two is to increase the enforcement, whether that's the increase of close to 400 police officers in our streets, or whether it be looking at what we can do to eradicate poisonous drugs like crystal meth and fentanyl from our province and ultimately from the hands of those that are living in our communities. That will go a long way to making for safer communities in the province of Saskatchewan. And so how do we make those investments? By ensuring that we have a strong growing economy, by ensuring that export value that was at $17 billion in 2007, growing to $31 billion in 2018 and $49 billion last year, continues to increase years into the future. That's how we'll make those investments today, and that's how we'll continue to make those investments into the future. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.